Tonight, Port Lincoln's RSL members called to bring some of the town's precious war memorabilia back home. And locals urged to be on turtle watch after an invasive species has been spotted slowly walking the streets of a Yorke Peninsula town.
This is Southern Cross News with Abby Donaldson.
Good evening. With the closure of the Port Lincoln Army Reserves unit, local RSL members are working hard to save some of the town's precious memorabilia. Many items have been removed and sent to Adelaide, but there's hope to bring some of them back home.
Lance Corporal Kevin Mitchinson is believed to be the first soldier from Port Lincoln to have lost his life in the Vietnam War, and this memorabilia to commemorate his service was almost taken away. It's a piece that's been saved in an emotional battle to protect the town's war history and keep it on display locally.
You get an attachment to things, and it's just pulled on the heartstrings when I thought they might go back to Adelaide and not be seen again.
The local Army Reserves depot has closed, and last week Army personnel came in to remove the memorabilia left inside, leaving Brad and Tony anxious about the possible disappearance of local history.
We were concerned that some of the things were going to be taken and weren't going to be accounted back to us.
I went up there at the request of a couple of the current members to try and find out what was going on, and after some negotiation I managed to score the two items that are behind us.
However, there's good news for the items that have been taken to Adelaide. They won't disappear, they'll go into a new Army inventory.
Once the Army in Adelaide has worked out what they need to keep and what they don't need to keep, we'll negotiate as to whether we can have stuff returned here and whether it can be brought into our museum at the RSL.
Casey Treloar, Southern Cross News.
An invasive species of turtle has been spotted slowly walking the streets of a Yorke Peninsula town. Locals are being urged to be on the lookout for the exotic red-eared slider.
An exotic turtle originating from Mexico has been slowly and steadily making its way across the town of Wallaroo. The red-eared slider has been a burden to other states in Australia for quite some time.
There have been several interceptions of them at the Australian border, which means that probably quite a lot get through, and there are already many in Australia. So they were eradicated, we hope, from Queensland several years ago.
The red-eared slider is a major threat to the turtle species. They're known to carry diseases which can infect native turtles. They can also compete for food and basking sites and ultimately decimate local populations.
It has already perhaps happened in New South Wales where a parasite, a malaria-like parasite, was detected in a couple of native species.
Locals are urging people to be on the lookout for this slow assailant, which you may notice waddling along near wetlands or even parks. Keep an eye out for its unique red stripes on either side of its head.
Dominic Beaton, Southern Cross News.
A new training hub for postgrad medical students has been officially launched in Whyalla. 5 new positions are available, with hopes they'll consider going regional once qualified.
It's the final week for these medical students who've been on placement in the region for a year. They'll return to studying in Adelaide and have postgrad studies in their sites. And those keen to return to country areas will have that opportunity, with placements up for grabs from next year.
There will be 5 new rural immersion interns who will live, work and train in Whyalla and rotate to Port Augusta and Port Lincoln.
The Northern Training Hub officially launched last night. Dr MacArthur says extending the opportunities available in regional areas will hopefully convince some to make the change permanent.
With view to train in that area and then to be retained in that area to keep providing those clinical services.
Member for Grey, Rowan Ramsey, says this is just what the doctor ordered for the region.
Broaden their skill set, broaden their confidence, and hopefully get them to fall in love with living in the country, as most of us who live in the country do.
As the Spencer Gulf battles with a major doctor shortage, it's positive to see some of the students are already interested in returning.
Yeah, a really great opportunity for us just to really test yourselves a bit in terms of your own independence.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Thousands of FIFO workers are expected to descend on Port Augusta next year for a number of energy projects, but the issue is keeping them in town after their work is done. It's as the council looks at new ways to improve the city's poor population growth.
4,500 workers will be flooding to Port Augusta over the next 5 years, poised to be the town's answer to the economic hole left by the closure of the Northern Power Station. But there's another big question.
How do you maintain that workforce? And then how do you get those people to come to Port Augusta and actually make that home?
A lack of tertiary education opportunities to grow a skilled local workforce has meant fly-in, fly-out and migrant workers have become a common trend. So once they're off the tools, it's hard to keep them in the town.
But they don't provide a stable base. They are a drain on services, but they actually don't generate income for the area, for the councils.
In a 10-year period between 2006 and 2016, the population of Port Augusta only grew by just under 300 new residents, putting it in the 10 lowest urban growth centres in the country. The council is hoping to buck that trend with the next crop of workers.
How do we actually capitalise on that and benefit on that to make sure that the communities come out of the winner in this?
The state government has set up a working group with Spencer Gulf leaders to help find solutions to these problems. In particular, ways to meet a future demand for accommodation. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
A team of researchers from Macquarie University are examining lead levels in dust and how it gets into Broken Hill homes. It's believed a common household appliance may hold the key.
The vacuum is used to clean the family home, but a Macquarie University professor says it contains vital samples to understanding the level of lead contamination in Broken Hill.
Trying to understand the sources and the exposure risk for the community in Broken Hill. Well, we know there's an elevated blood lead problem.
It's called the Household Dust Survey. Professor Taylor says his team of researchers have been collecting samples to document how lead ends up in the home.
People spend about 90% of their time indoors on average. That's what the that's what the estimates are. Children on the age of 1, and more often under the age of 2, they're not rolling around in the garden. They're typically in their homes, under the eye of their mother or their father. We have very little information about what's actually going on inside people's homes.
Using samples from residential vacuums in Broken Hill because it was less invasive.
There are other standard methods for collecting dust, but it's much more difficult because, it's more involved. You have to go to the house, you have to do a specific process. And, it's much easier to collect vacuum dust.
Professor Taylor says he hopes to have a summary report by mid-November. Patrick Roinke, Southern Cross News.
Interesting stuff. Still to come tonight, we speak to the owner of Australia's fastest yacht, who's the first to nominate for the Adelaide to Lincoln race. And Broken Hill's famous Christmas puddings will be tasted by a member of the royal family this year. We'll tell you who soon. Welcome back. Port Pirie police are investigating the theft of a horse from a farm in Baroota in the mid-north. A cream-coloured American saddlebred stallion was stolen from a Buggy Road property between midday and 5 p.m. yesterday. Anyone who's seen the horse in the York mid-north area or has knowledge of its whereabouts is urged to contact the local police or Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000. Domestic violence and the response to it was the focus of a state government forum in Whyalla today. The minister in charge says they want to ensure new measures in the state budget will be effective in regional areas.
It's a national issue, a scourge on society. In the recent state budget, new measures were introduced to tackle domestic violence. Consultation is now underway, with Whyalla hosting a forum on the subject today.
People can talk to us so that they can help shape the policy rather than us try and take a one-size-fits-all approach.
Funding has been developed to ensure the crisis hotline runs 24/7, while regional areas will see extra crisis beds for those escaping violence. An app to help connect with police has been developed, while people can now check to see if their partners have had a violent history.
We've got a number of services that operate already. Part of the current election commitments and the budget rollout is about what the gaps were.
The minister says today's feedback is vital, as those tackling the issues in regional areas understand their community's needs.
The services work really well together because everybody knows each other and they often can do the problem solving.
If you or someone you know needs help, call 1800 800 098. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
With Port Augusta's Relay for Life event a little over a week away, organisers are bracing for one of their biggest years yet. Over 150 walkers are expected to cut laps for cancer, and fundraising efforts have already cracked the $15,000 mark.
For both Ron and Cheryl Hewitt, cancer has been unforgiving in both their lives.
Because we both lost partners, with cancer.
The two had their loved ones taken from them, while Cheryl was also diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017.
We've had a lot of common ground between us.
The recent passing of one of their fellow car club members, Trevor Usher, is gearing up their cancer fight, getting together a Relay for Life team of 18 people, aptly named Trevor's Rockets.
I just want to help as many people, women and men, as we can.
Nearly $8,000 has been raised by their team alone, among the $16,000 throughout the town.
No matter how hard people find their own circumstances, they're always willing to dig deep and give that dollar.
10 teams have registered for next weekend's event at Chinnery Park, with over 150 walkers to complete as many laps as possible.
It depends on how the legs and the back holds up.
Yeah.
Cancer survivors, thrivers and carers are encouraged to take part in the first lap at 2 p.m.
Whether they're part of a team or not, to come out and celebrate the first lap.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Such an important cause. Well, the Adelaide to Lincoln Yacht Race is the premier event on the state's sailing calendar, and excitement is already building with the fastest offshore boat in Australia, Ichiban, being the first to nominate for the race.
She's the reigning queen of Australian waters, and soon she'll be heading to Port Lincoln.
We've just opened the entries for this year or next year's Adelaide Lincoln Yacht Race, and first entrant was Ichiban, all the way from Sydney.
The whole Ichiban team has always wanted to come across and do the Port Lincoln race.
Matt Allen launched his latest 52-foot Ichiban only September last year and went on to claim the Rolex Sydney to Hobart. Her addition to the Adelaide to Lincoln fleet is some welcomed competition for Jeff Betcher's secret men's business.
Jeff Betcher from Adelaide won 5 of the last 6 races in the Adelaide Lincoln race, so he's really excited about going up against the best in Australia.
With hopes that Ichiban's nomination will attract more East Coast boats to make the trip.
Our announcement of coming across will probably sharpen their attention on whether they're going to come across and make probably what could be the most competitive fleet that you've ever seen in the race.
The yachts won't start filling up the marina here after the Adelaide to Lincoln race until February next year. So in the meantime, Ichiban is chasing a record-breaking title at this year's Sydney to Hobart.
No boat has gone back-to-back winner of the Sydney to Hobart race since 1965, so that's our challenge.
Casey Treloar, Southern Cross News.
Can't wait. Well, believe it or not, there's only 80 days left till Christmas, and the Royal Flying Doctor Women's Auxiliary have already started making their annual Christmas puddings in Broken Hill. The festive delicacies are highly sought after, and one of the puddings will even be enjoyed by the royal family.
Sweet tooths rejoice.
Puddings are well and truly underway.
The ladies of the RFDS Women's Auxiliary have been hard at work making their scrumptious Christmas puddings. They start with plenty of eggs and butter, combine that with brandy-soaked fruit, tie it up in calico, boil it and then hang it out to dry before they're ready for delivery to the RFDS Visitor Centre.
But they won't be available for sale until about the 15th of this month.
And the demand continues to grow after over 60 years since the first batch was made. Over the course of a week, the ladies here will make over 2,000 of these delicious puddings. And if you're like me and you want to have 1 or 2 or 6, you better get your orders in pretty soon.
These puddings are renowned all over the world, so how good's that?
And when Carol says the puddings are well renowned, she means it. A former CEO of the RFDS Eastern section will be taking one to England, where a member of the royal family will be enjoying one this Christmas.
This pudding is going, first of all, to Clyde Thompson. Clyde is going to take it to London, and he will then give it to Prince Charles. And the reason he's going to give it to Prince Charles is because the Prince is the patron of the RFDS Friends in the UK, and he's had a pudding before and he loved it so much he wrote us a thank you letter, so he's going to get another one this year.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Gee whiz, you're making me hungry. I can't believe Christmas is so soon. Well, stay with us. We'll have all the action from a basketball clinic in Port Pirie as part of Kidtober. And in the weather, it's going to be a sunny weekend and the dial's rising too. I'll have all the local weather details soon. Hello again. Professional tennis will be returning to Port Pirie next year after the town missed out on the tour due to renovations. The council has committed $5,000 in their annual budget towards the event.
Opportunity to host a women's pro tour event in Port Pirie in 2019 and also a bronze level junior tournament for the first time.
It's expected to draw in players from Eastern Europe and Northeast Asia as well as some interstate players. Some Port Pirie youngsters will be testing their aim at a local basketball clinic as part of Kidtober. The event is part of a month-long program celebrating our littlest residents.
Come on and slam. The Port Pirie Frizz Clinic is all about teaching local kids some new skills, and many were up to the challenge, with some even giving the instructors a run for their money.
Trying to help out the basketball community, I guess. Yeah, it's fallen a bit short lately in the juniors, so we're just trying to lift it back up. We got Matt J helping, who's the president now, and he's right into it.
The event was an instant sellout, with more than 100 players in attendance.
I really want to learn to practice basketball, because I haven't practiced it in a long time.
And the next basketball star could be amongst this pack. And after seeing some of the shots on goal, I wouldn't be surprised if the next Ben Simmons was hidden amongst this group of eager young basketballers. Dominic Beaton, Southern Cross News.
And it's semi-finals time in Whyalla Soccer this weekend. Here's Sean Sheedy.
Welcome to Whyalla Soccer for the Bill Patterson Association Cup semi-finals. On Saturday we have Lions taking on Wanderers. Wanderers were very good last week in their playoff, but I'm going to tip the league champions, Lions, to win on the Saturday. On Sunday we have Croatia taking on Steel at Croatia Park. Both teams are coming off the bye. Both will want to make the final, but I'll be tipping Croatia.
Thanks, Sean. And here's what's happening in the weather this weekend. Well, it was a gorgeous spring day today. Port Augusta and Port Pirie saw a top of 24 degrees. On the satellite, patchy cloud over southern SA and onshore winds could bring the odd light shower to the southeast later. Taking a look at the waters for your Saturday, southerly shifting southeasterly winds up to 15 knots, seas at 1.5 metres and sunrise is at 5:52. It's warming up a little tomorrow, fine conditions too. Port Lincoln in for a cloudy day, 21 the top. Coffin Bay could see a shower here and there, and Port Augusta will reach a top of 28 degrees. So to the rest of the weekend and into next week, temps will continue to rise on Sunday. Cleve heading for a top of 28 degrees and Woodna will see a top of 32 degrees. Pleasant conditions to kick off the working week, and that cloud cover will be creeping in for all centres on Tuesday. And it certainly looks more like summer here. Port Augusta heading for a warm 32 degrees on Sunday, Kadina 27, and staying warm for Monday before temps dip down into the low 20s for Tuesday, Whyalla 22. Lovely conditions for Port Pirie this weekend, warming up to 30 degrees on Sunday. Clare will see a top of 25 and Broken Hill 27, and it will stay like that for Monday. Port Pirie in for a cloudy day on Tuesday and the chance of the odd shower for Clare. And that's all from the team this Friday. Have a lovely weekend and we'll see you again on Monday.